Hi and welcome to Mark's motivational podcast for the Sunday afternoon. So it's we're delighted to be joined by another guest tonight. It's Pete and Tom songs. Pete and Tom on song. So it's their band. It's a duet they have going. So tonight I'm delighted to be joined by Tom. So you're very welcome along tonight, Tom.
Thanks a million, Mark.
Yeah, no,
Great to
you're
talk
very
to you.
welcome. Yeah, thanks for coming along. So, can you tell the
Uh,
listeners about your latest song that has just been released? All Fall Down,
yeah, sure.
please.
Yeah, All Fall Down. It's just out now on the 17th of September. It's our eighth single, and we've been releasing singles for the last couple of years. And I suppose every single we try and do something a little bit different from the last one. And
Yeah,
this one was, I suppose, we said, well, we've got to get it under 3 minutes. That's the first thing. We want to get a 3 minute pop song, and it's a song about um, kind of realizing what the circularity of life. Everything comes around. Um, Sort of, you have kids, you look after them, insulate them, and you let them go, and you let them out in the world, and that was done for you, and they will do it for the next generation, and so on. So it's just about kind of that realization that we're all in this circle, and
yeah.
it just keeps rocking on.
Mhm. No, it's a really good
And
song. I really
mistakes are
enjoy.
made along the way, but
Yeah,
yeah, thanks.
it's a great
Yeah.
song, and I really enjoyed listening to it. And where did the idea come from? It was collaborating with Pete. Sorry, Pete can't be here tonight, but uh, uh, where did the idea come from of this particular song?
Yeah, well, I suppose the inspiration came from it's kind of funny when I look back on it, but I was looking out the window, and I was getting some insulation put on my onto my house, and I saw
Yeah,
this load of insulation there, and I just
mm,
started thinking about like what you parents do for kids, like they insulate
yeah,
them, and
yeah.
but you can't over insulate. You've
No,
got to you got to let them breathe as well. You got to
hmm,
need a bit of ventilation. So
yeah,
the song just kind of came into my head that way. That
mm,
um, this sort of insulation of people, of kids, and trying to let them grow up at the same time and let them make their own decisions and send them out into the world. And then,
yeah,
as I was saying earlier, the kind of the whole circularity of everything's in a circle, and
mm,
you do it, it was done for you. Hopefully, they'll do
yeah,
it for their generation, the next generation to come.
yeah,
So that was the basic idea, and took it to Pete, and then we took it from there, and we kind of did a lot, just the two of us together, and then when it came to the recording, we kind of take it a stage further. We get our old friend Angela De Burca in on violin, and she gives us great scope in terms of ideas. Like she will bring great things, and we'll suggest something to her, and she'll interpret it, and
mm,
so yeah, it worked really well. We were very pleased with what came out, and then we have a great kind of producer engineer, Graham Watson, in Floodplain Studios down in Clontarf, and
mm,
he's great at interpreting things we would put to him. He kind of makes sense of them, and the whole
yeah,
digital recording now for us is just amazing, because when we were
mm,
recording originally back in the 80s,
yeah,
everything was on the tapes, and you were splicing tapes and all sorts of things,
yeah,
and so it's
yeah.
just so much easier now. It
Mm.
really is.
Yeah. No, it's a great sound. Like your music has a lovely sound about it. Like you really hear the violin in the music. I found it really good. So it's going to be great
Yeah,
for listeners to
yeah,
check it out. And you'll
yeah,
have to.
yeah.
I'm going to share it as well on the show notes for people to check it out as well. So thanks for
Yeah,
that, Tom.
thanks.
That's brilliant. You start playing music together back in the 80s. Why was there such a gap between then and now? Like, have you playing in other bands and stuff, Tom? Since then,
Well, Yeah, well, back in the 80s, we played together in one band, and I played in another band, and then Pete played in a couple of bands. And
Yeah,
then, at a certain point, I mean, I kind of packed it in really in the 80s. I kind of packed it in for a long time, and I was doing a bit of acting as well, so I was concentrating on acting and stuff like that.
yeah,
And Pete had other stuff going on as well, work wise, and like when he sort of concentrated on his work, the interest didn't go away, but the actual active participation just drifted.
mm, yeah,
And so that was just a long gap where I ended up having kids. He had kids. We both got married to lovely women, and we kind of were busy. And
mm,
we kept in touch, but we
yeah,
were basically busy. And then kids grow up, and you get a bit less busy sometimes, and you kind of drift back into it. And I was involved in a small theater show, and we had some songs that we had done in a show where we first met back in 1984. It was in the International Bar theater company I was involved in. We were doing a Dracula musical, and we had some funny songs from that Dracula musical. Then I said to Pete, "Do you want to come back and we'll play them again in this theater show?" And he said, "Yeah." We started playing together again, and it just took off from there. Before long, we did a second little theater show with the drama company, and this was a few years ago. And then we decided, well, why don't we just record a song for the fun? So we recorded a kind of a theatrical song called "You're a Cad," and it was a kind of a Noel Coward pastiche, and we had great fun doing it. And um, the reaction was pretty good. People found it pretty funny,
yeah.
and we had a lot of fun doing it. So we stuck it up, did a video, stuck it up on YouTube, and surprisingly, people actually watched it. I think it's got about 5,000 views now.
Very
So
good.
we were
Yeah,
quite surprised because we thought maybe 10 people might watch it.
yeah, yeah. Good
So
stuff. Yeah,
and it got played on a few stations, community radio stations, local radio stations, and then we kind of said, this is actually good fun. Maybe we should do another one. And we just took it from there. Each one, we sort of broadened our horizons a bit. The second song we did was a real sort of simple pop tune, and
mm,
we just took it from there. And then we started getting a bit more ambitious. We started, writing songs which we felt were a bit more crafted, and
mm,
a bit more just the way they were, yeah, the format and the instrumentation. We kind of just took it a bit more seriously, and so that's what we've been trying to do now. We're actually enjoying it so much. We're just trying to go one better every time. We're trying to make a better song and do a better job on the production, do a better job on playing, everything about it, And
mm.
getting Angela in on violin for the last four songs has been fantastic. It's really, broadened the sound. And if you're playing some of the songs tonight, like, you'll probably realize that the it really does add great
Mm.
great things to the songs to have that instrumentation. And yeah, so
Yeah,
that's
that's great. Yeah.
that's
No,
where we're headed at the moment. Yeah.
yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing your songs. Like, they're really good, and it's funny you should say the International, because we go downstairs to the basement in the International and play some music as well. So yeah, it's a good
Okay.
spot, the
Yeah, yeah.
International. Yeah, yeah, it's great spot.
Yeah,
And
in my day it was upstairs. Yeah, it was
okay,
upstairs
yeah,
in the
yeah,
International. Yeah,
mm,
we did
yeah,
theater shows in the 80s. Yeah, yeah,
because they
it's a
still
great
have it
great spot. I
upstairs.
mean,
Yeah, they still have it
for the
upstairs for
comedy. Yeah,
comedy. Yeah, yeah, it's very good.
that's right. Yeah,
And who was your
yeah.
influences? Who was your influences? Tom.
Well, I mean, growing up, I would have been very into bands like Roxy Music, and
Mm,
obviously David Bowie. His
mm,
songwriting would have been
yeah.
influential. There was a band, American band called Television, had a couple of albums back in the 70s. And
Mm,
then, I mean, you can't help but be influenced by, I suppose, everything you've ever heard growing up in the,
exactly. Yeah.
from the 60s to the 70s. And, sometimes, I would discover, bands that I kind of, I basically missed first time around. And
Mm,
only the other day, I sort of realized that I used to like a band called Tindersticks. and
Right.
they're an amazing band. And I've just been listening to them pretty regularly now for the last few days, and I think, God, what great songs. And I
Mm.
kind of was aware of them about 20 years ago and then totally forgot about them, and
Yeah.
now getting back into them, and hearing more of their songs, and God, what a great repertoire of songs they have. Beautiful
Mm.
instrumentation, and really just great sound. Yeah, lovely songs. So yeah, I mean, you'd surprised where a great song will come from, and you
Yeah.
know might be a band you never heard of before, and you hear a song and you're affected by it.
Mm.
um, yeah. So don't rule anything out.
Exactly. Yeah. That's
and
great.
and
Yeah.
and, and, and these days, like, I suppose, back in the 70s, the 80s, people had an album, and people concentrated on one album. But now, like, young people tend to concentrate on one song. They have a
Mm.
song from one artist, a song from another artist, and then they have their Spotify playlist, and it's quite a mix. you know
Yeah. Yeah.
um I can remember when I was in school, there was a group of people who liked Roxy Music and Led Zeppelin, maybe, and then there was a group of people who liked Genesis, but you couldn't like both.
Yeah.
You had your style of music, and that was it. you know
Yeah. It's a
so
bit like
now when I look back, I realize there's such a lot of great music out there, that I missed first time around.
yeah. My closer memory of that was Oasis and Blur in the 90s.
Oh yeah.
You couldn't
Yeah.
like Oasis.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm. And
Yeah.
that's great. And for instance, you've got eight. This is your eighth song. You've done together.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
other songs, are they also available on all the major streaming sites?
Yeah. Yeah. They're all on Spotify and iTunes,
Yeah.
and a load of other platforms as well. And there's 8 videos on YouTube. So
Mm.
yeah, we're pretty accessible. The website is very straightforward.
Mm.
www.peteandtomonsong.com. So
Great.
it's,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the music's out there, and I mean, I know people can buy it on iTunes, but I mean, so much of music is free nowadays. Very few
True.
people seem to pay
Yeah.
for their music, so
I know. Yeah.
it's out
Yeah.
there. We do it, we like it, and that's it. Yeah.
Exactly. Very good.
Um,
Mm.
yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah. Brilliant. And how has the last 2.5 2 years affected your music, yourself and Pete? Your music, like, has it restricted in any way, like with the pandemic?
Well, probably yes and no. I mean, in the sense that having been at home more often, and having had a bit more time to myself, I could pick up the guitar at home. I could, come up with ideas, come up with tunes, and come up with songs, and that was great. And Pete was saying that he the fact that we didn't meet up as often, when people were in lockdown, like, that sort of broke the rhythm a bit. But
Mhm.
when we could get back together and start playing and recording, like, we tried to do as much as we can, so, and as much as we could back then. So we finished off a couple of songs, which was great. And
Mm.
we put a lot of the basis of other tracks down as well, so that the next time we get back in the studio, we won't be starting from scratch. We'll be actually trying to finish off a couple of songs. And
Mm.
so, like, when we could, we did a lot. And then there were periods where we could we'd be sending each other messages and sending each other, bits of ideas on WhatsApp and things like that. So you make do with
Yeah.
whatever you can
Exactly.
do.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
But we certainly didn't lose interest, and
Mm.
we, in fact, we had a bit more time to think about it. If not to be in the same room all the time, we still had a bit more time to think about stuff, so that was good.
Mm.
um,
Yeah. That's
yeah, it's
great
probably
stuff.
different.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're not playing live at the moment. We haven't played live in a long time, so
Mm.
like, a lot of musicians who play live regularly, it really affected them. So we
Yeah.
were very much just in the trying to write
I
songs kind
understand.
of
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
vein.
Yeah.
So we were okay from that point of view.
Mm. Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah. And That's funny. You were saying about live. That was the next question. Have you any gigs lined up yourself for anybody that's listening to go and see us? Have you gone that far yet?
No, we've absolutely no gigs lined up, and it's not that we wouldn't play one. It's just that we're thinking that, well, if we bring out a few more songs, and we're happy with what we've brought out, and we've got people maybe who are listening to us, and that number is growing. So if we were to do a gig, then we might have a few people who'd be interested in coming along to hear the songs live. So from that point of view, I think we'd like to record a few more songs first, and just have a repertoire of songs that people are a bit familiar with. And I think that would be a better way to start. It's not that we wouldn't. If somebody asked us, we'd certainly think about it. But we're not a full band. We're a duo with Angela, a trio, who are recording when we can. And if we're going to play live, we'd probably want to be adding more people to the band. And I mean, then you're into the whole does it pay for itself, and all that kind of thing. So don't want to take all the enjoyment out of the recording for the moment. We just want to get more songs out there and have a body of work that people will say, yeah, maybe we should go and check them out, have a look at them. So
it's a great idea.
That's the plan
at
the moment anyway.
That's a great way to look at it. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, no, thanks for that. Yeah, so watch this space, as I say, Tom.
Well, yeah. And unless we get a phone call saying you have to do a world tour,
very good.
That could change our minds,
Yeah, definitely great. No, thanks for that. And so I can see your video for the song is great. You did as well, So who did the camera work for that?
That's my son,
really
Coleman O'Brien, and he's a keen video maker, and he's made 4 videos for us, and they worked out well. And we have another young video maker called Tig McDonough, who's made the other 4 videos for us. So it's nice to get young people kind of interested in what you're doing, and it's great to see them at work. And we were very happy with the way it turned out. We were using Dollymount Beach, but it looked a bit like the Caribbean on the day, with lots of sunshine, really nice, and Howth in the background. It looked really gorgeous, and we had an empty beach to ourselves, and it just seemed to suit the drone camera. It just seemed to suit the kind of song that it was, and it's a very straightforward video. There's not much to it, but it just it's easy on the eye, and the camera movement is lovely. So
it's great.
We're well pleased with it.
And did your son do that like for different bands, or is it just something that he's done for you?
Well, he's done it for us, and like he's done little pieces for a few friends of his who have been raising money for various charities. They ran 7 marathons in 7 days recently, so he did a bit of promotional footage for them. Last year they ran 50K, so he did a promotional film for them using the Zoom camera. So he does it whenever he can, and whenever people want him, just for fun.
I understand that. That's great. That's brilliant, because I know it's a really good job. And what songs did you do back in, you kind of answered this already, but like with the international and stuff like that, but what did you do any other songs recorded back in the 80s? Because for some reason the name sounds familiar, when you're growing up. I was growing up in the 80s, that I don't know, the name sounded familiar.
Well, the band was called, that we were together, and was called the V Column, and we like a lot of other bands at the time, this is when the Bag It Inn was open. We would try to get gigs in the Bag It Inn, and it was actually very hard to get a gig in the Bag It Inn in those days, because the manager at the time, Charlie, his attitude was, well, if you can pull a crowd, I'll give you a gig, but unless I know you, and how do I know you'll pull a crowd on a Thursday night or a Friday night or a Saturday night? Because there was some very well-known bands, you know, playing those nights, and you weren't going to
Mm.
get in there. So Charlie finally said to us, "I'll give you a Sunday afternoon." So he gave us a Sunday afternoon in January, in, I think it was 1985, I think. And we had an 8-piece band, drums, bass, guitar, two backing singers, a saxophone player. So basically, you know, we had a lot of friends among the 8 people. So we really went to town on selling the gig, to the point where we actually packed out the Bag It In on a Sunday afternoon. And like we were delighted, but the manager was just, what's his name, Charlie, couldn't believe it. He was saying, Jesus, where'd you get these people from on a Sunday afternoon? So after that, he gave us a couple more gigs, but and then that was the start of it. Then we just picked up gigs wherever we could, college gigs at the time, and which was great fun. You know, you kind of you learn to play as a band. You know, it's a good experience. Just get out there in front of a crowd and do it.
Right.
You know,
Great stuff.
and great fun and hard work at the end of the day. And you know, I think when we decided to take a break, you know, from the music and so on, we kind of knew how hard a life it could be. And you know, if you're successful, it's a bit easier. You know, you can make a living and so on. But if you're struggling, it's a very tough life. You know, and you know, I take my hat off to people who stay at it all their life. You know, because it's a tough job.
Tough. It's a tough market. All right. Definitely agree with you. This is brilliant. Thanks a lot for coming on. And just probably to ask as well, like, do you write the songs yourself, Tom?
I mean, like we write the songs together. I mean, like the way we do it can vary, you know. So I could bring a song to Pete, and then Pete will add his ideas. You know, so it's kind of it's a bit of a merger of ideas, and we've agreed that, you know, we will never, you know, put anything out or put anything into a song if one of us just isn't happy with it. Like if it's an instrumental section or, you know, whatever, if one of us is just not happy with it. So it's very much you know, a partnership in the way we work. So I'm, you know, delighted with that, because we're both happy with the output. You know, we're not you know, if you have a big band, you know, it can be hard to keep everybody happy, you know, with so many ideas coming in. And so it's the two of us with the ideas, and that's great. So it means we can take songs to a certain stage a bit quicker in a way. And then we've got, you know, as I say, we've got Angela on violin, you know, coming up with great ideas as well. And you know, it's just perfect for us, you know, like she knows what to do before we do, which is great.
Great. And just because it's a motivational podcast, can I just ask you, Tom, what kind of motivates you to keep going with your songwriting? Just say if you hit a metaphorical wall, let's say, if you're when you're writing, is there anything that you could say that keeps you motivated?
Well, I mean, you kind of get very motivated from, you know, creating something. And when you're creating music together, you know, it's just a really good feeling that you get. And then when you try and, you know, perfect it, try to make it as good as it can be, and when you hear the results, it's a really good feeling, and you feel like you've created something worthwhile, and you hope that, you know, other people will enjoy it, and if they do, that's the extra satisfaction of, you know, you've done something that people actually like and want to hear and want to play it again. And that's a great feeling, you know. You know, we started, you know, with a sense of humor. We did a funny song just for fun, and then as we went along, you know, the songwriting has got more interesting, and I think, you know, has a more of a hopefully a lasting quality to it as well, not just a throwaway comedy song, you know. So yeah, it's and like we're not spring chickens, you know. So we, you know, we feel that maybe we could have been doing this, you know, for longer back in the day, but for various reasons we chose not to. But um, you know, in one way, we're actually a very young band because we
Yeah.
haven't been doing this very long. Um, so you know, we're learning as we go along, which is always fun to think that you're learning something. And you know, music has moved on, and so I suppose we've absorbed a lot of music over the years without actually creating a lot. So now that we're creating, it's probably very different to what we would have created if we'd stayed on doing it, you know, continuously. So I think the break has been quite good for us. We certainly enjoy getting back into it. It's been good.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Thanks very much for sharing that, Tom. That's really good, because that's really helpful for anybody that's listening who's doing music. You know, because that's
Yeah,
a really good point you have there when you're creating something, and that's motivation in itself. So that's brilliant. That's really good. So
yeah,
it was been great talking today, Tom. And I wish you all the best with the
yeah. Thanks
band,
very
like,
much,
you know,
Mark.
with the music. And so
Yeah,
what we're going to share, I'm going to share your songs after the podcast now. For anybody that's listening, they're going to get to listen to all your songs. And as I
great.
say, like, where can people buy them again? Just where people are listening, it's Spotify and
Yeah, well, yeah, we're on Spotify, we're on iTunes, and a load of other platforms, and videos on YouTube, and you can check the website as well if you want to know more about us.
yeah,
And you know, we've released 8 songs in about 2 years, and
right.
you know, the plan is to continue as we're doing. So we should have another 4 or even 5 out next year. Um, we had a Christmas song out last year, which did
Okay,
okay for us. We were quite happy with it. And Christmas being Christmas, it'll be out again this coming Christmas.
great
So
stuff. Yeah.
we've got one just out now. The Christmas one hopefully will get played a bit this
Mhm.
Christmas, and then we'll have a new one, brand new one out in January for sure. And hopefully just, you know, continue as we're doing, and try and build up the repertoire, and hopefully grow the listenership as we go on. And like, you know, we do meet a lot of people, and we, you know, they actually don't know that we're doing this. So when we tell them, they're actually very surprised. And
Mm.
most of the time they're pleasantly surprised. They kind of generally have been very kind and say they like the stuff. So yeah, that's a bit of fun. In terms of motivation, I suppose, you know, you're never too old to be creative, you know,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
you're never too old to try something new as well. So
Mm.
you know, for us, it's all new again, and that's a great feeling.
Great. Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, thanks a lot, Tom. So the first song I'm going to play tonight is "All Fall Down." So I'm looking forward to all the listeners listening to this. So thanks a million, Tom, again for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, Mark. Great to talk to you.
And make sure around Christmas time send me that song so I can share it with the listeners as well. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, will do
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a million. Take care.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
So thanks everybody listening to today's podcast, Mark's Motivational Podcast, with your host Mark Lestrange. So that was Tom from the band Tom on Pete and Tom on song. So I hope you enjoyed that podcast. So thanks again, Tom. I'll talk to you real soon. Take care.